Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the True Life Podcast. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day. It's been quite an incredible week here in the state of Hawaii with all these fires and this tragedy and the smoke going around. And I've got an incredible guest today with an incredible ability to tell stories, to see the world that all the world is a stage. And we're going to get into so much of what he does here and how much transformation he brings to people. I've labeled this the Trinity of transformation. And I would love to introduce to everybody today, Stev Fioretti. He is the owner of Comic Characters. He's got a degree in theater arts, and he's been doing what he's loved for the last 26 years. We're going to get into it all today. Stev, how are you today, my friend?
I am fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm coming from Melbourne, Australia, where it's toward the end of winter, and really, really grateful to be on the show and love your energy, George. I've been an entertainer for about 28 years. Before that, I was a naturopath and a homeopath. And in some ways, my life has been kind of, do I be an entertainer, an actor, a performer, or do I be a healer? Do I be a transformation? Well, somehow I seem to, what I feel is do both at the same time. And it's mainly through entertainment and mainly through bringing, being in a group of people, bringing people together and either breaking the ice, helping people to feel comfortable in each other's presence. Just the other night, I was Charlie Chaplin at the Queen Victoria Markets down the road in the city of Melbourne. And I just love it. I just love engaging with audiences. I love what I do.
Well, you know what? I think that's beautiful. And I wish more people had the courage to love what they do and stay doing what they do. I'm sure that had to be something along the lines like you're going through your life, you find something you love to do. Were there challenges along the way? Were there things that pulled you away like a tractor beam? To like, hey, don't do this thing you love. Go do this thing for money or do this thing. Like so many people, myself included, have found, you know what I mean? Like you get pulled away from these things that you love and part of you dies when that happens, right?
Oh my God. I became a real estate agent for 4 months. It was so not me. My boss, he was like an evil tyrant monster. And each day when he came into work, I didn't know whether we were getting the nice guy or the evil tyrant. So you just never knew. But funnily, early in my career, about 28 years ago, 26 years ago, somewhere around there, basically, I'd been entertaining for a few years. It was really early days. And I just felt like I was a clown my wig was being pulled off, my clothes were being stretched one way. People were whacking me on the head, slapping me on the ass, and it was kids. And I just said, I hate these kids. I'm never going to work with kids again. But I had a realization that something had to shift. And what it was that I didn't have any boundaries. As a child growing up, I was with a dysfunctional mum, and it wasn't always pleasant in the house. So I didn't know how to set boundaries. So I started doing this in performance, particularly around the kids when I went back to it, when I went back to kids. And I discovered my ability to be like a teacher, to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Here's the boundaries. Let's get into it. Let's have fun. And here I am, many years later, loving children, loving all their quirky idiosyncrasies, all their naughtiness, because it's all the attention that they seek, whether it's good or healthy or not good or, mischievous.
Right.
It's all the same thing. They want
Yeah.
love. They can see this guy who's, living his life, who's having a good time, and sometimes they want to somehow, you know, they want to engage. They want to engage, and I love to do that with kids in particular. But my favorite audiences are are families, because I love the adults that accompany the children,
Right.
because they mutually want the best for each other.
Yeah,
So
that's an important part, I think. You know, first off, when kids see somebody that is an actor, be it in theater, storytelling, or clowning, like they see someone larger than life and they see inspiration and they see what is possible. And far too many of the places today, they strip that imagine away from them. Like when we put them in a chair, look, there's a time and a place for everything. But when a child goes to see a show, it's not like an adult that goes to a theater. A child is transported to a magical land where they see magical people and they believe in it and they can still be it and they still have this wonderful world of imagination. So I'm thankful to hear the way in which you can cope with that. Setting boundaries is clearly something that I wouldn't think about, but you would have to have them in there in order to be successful at it.
look, I do a lot of different types of shows, and in
Yeah.
particular, when I do these fun science shows,
Hmm.
um, basically, sometimes if I can tell if they're a rowdy
Right.
group, I'll say, look, there are going to be times when you can go nuts and go crazy and talk to your friends and make noise and do whatever you like, so long as you're not hurting anyone.
Right.
But there's other times when I'm going to need you to listen. So I'm going to put my hand up or I'm going to clap and I want you to copy me. Just fun ways of being able to get their attention for a brief period, just a brief window,
Right.
and then they apply, they get to do, what we're doing. And it's a great example of setting boundaries so that, because structure
Yeah.
is sexy. This
Mm.
body is structure. It's a structure. And then here's where I end, or where I think I end, although I know people much more sensitive than me will tell me I end like
Right.
further away from where where my skin actually ends. But yeah, structure's really been a great tool that I've learnt over the years.
It's interesting you say that because it seems to me that someone who interacts with people sometimes really begins to understand the space around them. Like if you're in the bit, if you're doing something or you have to a trick you're going to do or you're in the midst of a character, you need that space around you. So you're aware about 6 feet around you like that. That must be an interesting idea to try to explain to people or get people to understand about themselves when you're teaching them those things.
Um, for instance, if I want to pick a volunteer from an
Mhm.
audience, say I'm being my character Elf Sneaky Bottom or Spaghetti the Clown or, Captain Underpants or
Right.
whatever I am. Um, if I'm looking in the audience for a volunteer, I don't really think about, I don't use my ego or my like who looks prettiest or who. It's always like a feeling.
Mhm.
It's just scanning the room. It's like, that's where I have to go. That's the person, and I don't know why.
Right.
And oftentimes they're rarely duds. Um, and because I want to pick someone who's lively, but not too lively that sort of tries to take over, but not wooden either. Not somebody who's just going to stand there and say, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. Um, and so, for me, being quite sensitive and being able to determine make so many choices when I arrive at a venue to make this event the best it possibly can be. So I'm never thinking of myself, only myself. I'm never thinking of, say, the birthday child. if it's the birthday party, I'm thinking of all of us. It's like we're all on this ship and we're
Right.
setting sail for fun, for wonderful experiences.
It seems to me that there's a lot of vulnerability that takes place in the situation. For you, like, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to open yourself up to all different types of positions and judgments and stuff like that. And you need the crowd to be vulnerable too, because you want them to be affected by the things that you're doing. And I was wondering if you could speak to this idea of vulnerability. Like, what does it mean in what you do?
Yeah, I suppose there's a lot of vulnerability. There's, you're spot on. Vulnerability can really be, as far as I'm concerned, very quickly accessed by laughter.
Well
Because as
said.
soon as we're laughing, we're not in our head judging, or we're not thinking of how anything should be. We're just in the moment. And because that's what vulnerability is,
Right.
and any of these beautiful qualities, like empathy
Right.
and care and all those sort of qualities that I love to impart to audiences and receive as well.
Sure.
Because I'm like, I don't feel myself always the performer. I feel like I'm the conductor. Like I'm just
Okay.
helping to guide, because I have the experience of being able to help things go a certain beautiful way. But now I've lost the question.
Well, that's okay. We were just talking about the way in which vulnerability is
Vulnerability.
something but I like the way in which you bring it around to the idea of laughter, because I think that there's a lot of courage in laughter. Sometimes people don't want to laugh because they're afraid of what people will think. Do you ever run into that problem?
Oh my God. Oh, one of the worst venues I ever went to, I think it was someone's birthday party, and they were older kids, like they were 12 and above,
Mhm.
and they were like, "Make me laugh. Come on, do your job, make me laugh." But he didn't understand that it's not where I force or I manipulate everybody with
Mm,
my amazing skills. It's all part of, it's co-created.
right.
And so that make me laugh. That was a tough audience. It was really tough because it was like they had a certain mindset, whether they had maybe going through some sort of issues or who knows what, but
Hmm.
that's not a great audience, not an audience that I want to walk into. Whereas often, one of the first things I'll do, especially at a kid's birthday party, is say it's Roger's birthday party. So
Right.
I'll go up to, and they're usually anywhere between 4 and 12. And so I'll go up to all the girls and say, oh, "Hi, Roger, What? It's not you? You're not Roger." And of course, they know what I'm doing. They know I'm just
Right.
being completely silly, but it just completely, if there's any coldness, is any ice in the room, it melts, and we're all on the same page. We're all ready to have fun with this silly guy.
It's amazing to me. I think it speaks volumes of the way in which humans have this need for relationship too. And I love the way you explain this idea of co-creation, because that's what a relationship is, right?
Yeah.
It's you and I participating in this beautiful movie together. And if we choose to act with one another, if we choose to walk arm in arm, we could put on a beautiful show. And what are some other techniques that you use in order to walk hand in hand with the audience?
Um, what do I do? Gosh, uh, because I improvise,
Right?
I don't ever really. It's like when I'm as a character, I don't really think
Mm,
about what to do. If I come to a situation, it's like I become empty, like a Zen master,
right?
just become empty and just say to myself, "What's next?" because the thing that's next is the only thing that's important, because it will lead me to the next thing and the next thing after that. So, in terms of techniques of what, how to really, celebrate with people,
I like that.
I suppose it's really just making offers. I never tell anyone what to do. It's like I'm making an offer. Hey, Samantha, would you like, or hey, do you think it's a good idea if, you know, and um, and because I suppose my energy is warm, high, you
Sure.
know, inviting, it's easy for them to want to do something that I request, something that I'm offering. Which I suppose conversely, if I was an evil person doing all this, then it's could be equally as harmful. But my intention is always the group. How, you know, let's have a great time here. And I love that go. I pretty much never go to a audience a second time. So it's just I'm meeting these strangers who immediately they're not strangers anymore. They're my best friends,
Right.
because that's my attitude.
I love it. It seems to me that we can be, and especially doing what you do and the way you're explaining it, it almost feels like a warm wind of inspiration, because you're going into these crowds for the first time and you're inspiring them and you're talking to them. And we've talked about relationships. Uh, as you were speaking about it, this other question popped into my head, and you do play a lot of characters, whether it's Chaplin, and you can go into some other ones. But and feel free to address this how you like. I'm curious, when you move into the world of a character that you're playing, at that point in time, do you begin thinking as the character, or is it something that's premeditated?
Certainly with Charlie Chaplin, because I did so much research on him.
Right.
Um, there are some premeditated things, some things that I've kind of got up my sleeve, ready. If I'm walking up steps, for instance, I'll grab the back of my pants and pull myself up as if somebody else is
Right.
doing it to me.
Right.
As that's an example. But I suppose in terms of my characters, I'm pretty much always some kind of a clown.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think of Abbott and Costello, for instance.
Sure.
Hey, Abbott! So Costello was the august clown. He was the dum-dum, the buffoon, whereas Costello was the white face, the straight man. And if you think of Laurel and Hardy and you think of a lot of the characters like Dean Martin and
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Lewis, same thing. Lewis is the crazy, wacky, and Dean Martin's kind of holding the structure kind of thing. Whereas
Right.
Lewis can kind of go nuts and, you know, be released from the chain and do his wacky, wild stuff. So I really do improvise. There's a lot, and one of the things that I've been forced to do. So once I didn't take my props to a show, and it's like, oh my god, and I was far away from home, so I couldn't come home and
Right.
grab my stuff. So I just went in and improvised. I grabbed a piece of paper and did a magic trick with that, and asked to borrow some fruit to do some juggling, and so. In a lot of ways, some of the most difficult situations I put myself in, I learned a lot because I discovered that I don't actually have to have anything. I can just make it up. I can just improvise and play games with people. I don't need anything for that, pretty much. So I kind of feel like I'm a bit of a master at improvising. So that requires that I don't need anything.
That's such great advice for life. You know what I mean? Like, it goes far beyond any sort of performance, or maybe all life is a performance. And when you learn how to be comfortable with your authentic self and your ability to improvise in life, people will respect it and they'll be thankful for it. You know, is that something that you're able to show the families that come in, or show the kids that come in, like this level of being able to improvise? I think it would allow people a lot of self awareness, you know, and a lot of self love if they can learn some of the lessons that you're talking about right now.
Yeah, because it certainly cuts the habit, like, because we have so many habits,
Yeah.
so many patterns that both serve us and don't serve us.
Right.
And, to be able to improvise is such a powerful skill. I think that my feeling is that most people just assume that I'm just doing my show. Like, they don't know that I'm improvising. They don't know, because even when I'm out watching a performer, and I might talk to that performer after, and they say, "Oh, I had this problem, and I improvised, and it worked out."
Yeah.
So, but I suppose, as you're saying, like the value of improvising, and the value that it can teach people, and it in particular involves vulnerability,
Yes.
because it's like, oh, I don't have my usual props. I don't have my pump and my balloons. I don't have my juggling balls. Oh, what am I going to do? Oh, well, just it's like, okay, you've had your little brain fade. You've had your little tizzy. Oh, just come back to center. Right. How can I make the best of this situation?
Yeah, it's beautiful advice, and there's something to be said about walking through life and having the courage to be authentic. It seems that, when I start thinking about playing roles or characters, I think we do it all the time. There's a great book written by, I think it was Dale Carnegie, and it was called Games People Play. And in that book, he spoke about the ways, the characters that we become. Like, some people get up and they go to work and they pretend they're an employee, and that they pretend that they have a boss. Some people pretend they're the boss and they have employees, but it's really a big game. And the way you can really figure it out, for anybody who's listening, here's a cool experiment you can do. Go through your normal day, and if you find yourself in a conversation where you're one role, for this case, we'll say you're the employee and your boss is talking to you, you just stop in that conversation and you start asking the questions. You say something like, wait a minute, you know what I think you're doing is wrong. And you can see that other person flip into the employee mode. And so it really, when you begin talking about improvising and characters, it's a beautiful way to see the world. Like, we're all playing characters. And the beauty of it is that at any point in time, we can choose to play a different character. We can choose to play a bigger role. We can choose to play a smaller role. Is that too far out there? What do you think?
Oh, no, that's wonderful. Not easy for a lot of people,
Right.
because they're
It's hard.
so unused to not being themselves. But this thing that's called self is just made up. We just made it up. So, for instance, one of my favorite techniques, if I'm having a problem and I need to talk to somebody, I need to, speak in whatever way that could be confrontational.
Right.
I'll put myself in a chair. There'll be a chair across from me, just directly across from me. And I'll imagine that person, and I'll talk to them, and it's like a theatre game, but it could be fun, or it could be quite serious. It could be, I feel hurt, or I feel abused, or whatever. And when I've said everything that I need to say, I then walk over, sit in their chair, and then talk to me And mamma mia, the things that I've learnt about the other perspective that I didn't know when I then became them and then spoke to me. And it was like, wow, I could never have known, even imagined what you're going through or what challenges you're experiencing, or how you feel, until I became you. Shake it off, getting back into my chair, speak to the person. It really takes away all the sort of the mental clutter and really brings me right down into my heart. And it's yeah, it's fun being different characters. And I'm about to start doing some acting, more acting training, and I actually think that playing evil characters is more fun than playing good characters, because I kind of feel like a lot of my life I've been a good character. So I get to play with someone who's going against the sun, say for
Yeah.
instance, going against what is the benefit for everybody, and experience it. And like you say, it's a game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, first off, that's a beautiful exercise. I'm going to use that in my own life. What a great way to understand the form of empathy, to not only see yourself as the other person, but sitting in the person's chair and listen to the words you've said. Like, that's really a beautiful technique. Thanks for sharing that. It seems very
Mm,
powerful to me.
yeah,
I
you're
think,
welcome.
yeah.
Because you know, somebody who, I mean, I was trained to
Okay.
do it. I
Right.
was
Right.
shown how to do it. But you don't necessarily, you could just trust yourself and say, well, everybody has intuition. Everybody can make something up. Anybody can just play a game. And in a way, it's a game,
Right.
but it may be a serious game that, requires focus and, um, heart.
Yeah.
Um, but anyone can do it, and it's just mind-boggling how um, how it just moves any weight, any knots in the heart in the moment when I need to relate, I need to communicate something to somebody else, but they don't have to be in the room. They could be in another state, they could be in another country, they could be crossed over. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's powerful to think about. And in some ways, sometimes all we need is just to say it out loud. Sometimes just the act of saying it out loud kind of gets it out of the body, right? Or it allows you to transform a little bit. That's what I found anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our voice, our breath are so much more powerful than we realize. And, right now is one of the most amazing times to be alive, to be embodied on the earth, because we're going through such a transformation. Like we've just sort of spoken a little bit about transformation and characters and things like that. But the earth, it's like the earth is truly our mother. I love the earth, I love nature, and she wants to change. And there are more and more people on this planet that are saying, enough's enough, let's have love. Let love rule. And I mean, that's my message that's my unspoken message whenever I go to work.
Yeah, I agree. I see it everywhere in the people I talk to, and you know, I I feel it too. I feel the same change that's happening. And it's almost like seasons, right? Like you had spoken before when we first got on the podcast. Winter's almost over. And I think that's kind of a metaphor for the world we've been living in. Like maybe winter's
Yes,
almost over.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I do. I think a lot of people are really beginning to see that maybe the life they've been living hasn't been their best life. Maybe they can be better. Maybe people are finding the courage to go out and explore their authentic self. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you today is, you do have this shining authenticity. And when I start to hear about these different exercises that you do and the different characters that you play, I wanted to highlight that because I think it's such an important gift to show people. And it's it's special to me. And what maybe we can rewind a little bit. Like, is it, you had said it's something that you've always loved doing? Like, at what point in time did you realize like this is what you wanted to do? Like, you wanted to inspire people?
Oh my God. When I must have been like 8 in primary school. We call it primary school over here at that age. And my teacher forced me to be on stage doing like I was the hero. There was the heroine who was tied up on the railway tracks, and there was the villain. And all I had to do was come in with some money or pretend money and say, I'll pay the rent, so that the heroine was saved. Now, I didn't want to go up on stage. I was so reluctant to do it. But as soon as I got up, I just felt exhilarated. I just felt like, oh, this is the place for me to be. Now, I did have a troubled childhood, so I kind of fell asleep until about 28 when I did my first theatre course. And it was amazing because I had just become a naturopath, a qualified naturopath and homeopath. And now I was learning to be an actor, learning to be a performer. And I had just come from the naturopathic training, learning more about myself and ways of being able to help people's health. Now I was learning acting techniques that were deepening my relationship to myself, because the more I can know myself, the more I can access the different characters that might be required for a particular scene or a performance or whatever. So it blew me away, because it wasn't just about performance. It was about knowing self. And I've been listening to some channelers recently. They've been saying one of the most important things we can do is know what we are. And what we are, us humans, is incredible. Incredible. Sorry if I keep answering the performance and then bring it back to transformation, because they are so interlinked in my life.
Yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think I'm on the same page, and it's the Trinity of transformation, like the title says. And those things are so connected. Like, as you were speaking about homeopathy and understanding how to help people, what a powerful medicine laughter is, right?
Absolutely. Because it's instantaneous. We're in the moment, so everything else disappears except this moment. But one of the things that I kind of discovered about naturopathy and homeopathy, why did I do it? Why did I get into it? Well, I had a troubled childhood, and I know that my yearning to help others, I was unconsciously wanting to help myself.
Yeah.
And I could only help myself first if I'm going to be able to support others, so that by the time I did start performing, the natural healing training had been a wonderful, and I'm just realizing this now. had been such a wonderful training for me to become the performer, because I had left my job at a health food shop and as a naturopath. I went to Thailand. I saw performers on the street in Khao San Road in Thailand, Bangkok. And I just said to myself, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. So when I got back to Australia, that's what I started to pursue. And in terms of vulnerability and risk, I really risked it all because I had no idea that it was going to work. But I just had a passion that I couldn't deny, that had to be lived out. And I'm so glad that I took that risk, because here I am many years later, happy.
Yeah,
Very.
I'm glad you took the risk too. I think it's something that is contagious. I'm hopeful that it's really contagious. And yeah, I gotta talk to you right now. Sorry. Yeah, so I guess another question that comes to my mind is that the idea of growing up in a way where you live your life, begin healing yourself, and then the thing you end up doing heals younger versions of you. I don't know if I said it the right way, but I see it that way. It's almost like a life cycle. Like so many of us grow up, right? We grow up trying to heal ourselves, and we do. And the fruit of that labor becomes the fruit that helps the younger version of us get through it faster. You think that's accurate?
Oh, I love what you're saying, because, we live in space and time, but we also don't live in space and time.
Mm-hmm.
So the paradox is true. Can I prove it? No, I can't prove it, because we're living in this third dimension where this appears
Right.
as real.
Right.
But I've just had a little blank. Actually, is it possible we could pause the recording just so I can go to the loo?
Of course.
Fantastic.
Okay, I will do this right here.
My bladder.
Oh, okay. You're good to go. So it's a fantastic time to think about the way in which we all live our lives. I think that we do. I think so many of us grow up finding our own way, and these tips, these tricks, these schools, these things we do in our life to make ourselves better end up being something that we perform in life. And that performance in life helps others who are like us to become the best versions of themselves earlier. Does that kind of make sense? So I think Stev is talking about this way in which we live in this world. Like we're only able to see a few dimensions. But the truth is we're playing on a higher level. Like we are playing on a level that we barely even understand. And at that point in time, it takes a lot of imagination. It takes a lot of imagination in order to see the game play out. And I think the people that have the imagination, people that have the inspiration, the people that are willing to step back and see themselves and their situation in a third person point of view are the people that really begin to make a difference, not only in their life, but in other people's lives. I think that the idea of seeing the other as a reflection of yourself is a great way for you to move through your life. I was talking with my daughter a little bit earlier today, and I was telling her that everybody you see is a reflection of you. So when you find yourself in situations that are difficult, it's good to look at it like that and see yourself as that reflection, because you can learn a lot from people from that particular area there. I was just filling the people in, Stev, on this idea that there are other dimensions, and if we just see this one-dimensional view of ourselves, it's really easy to get tunnel vision. But yeah. Why not? Why can't we go? I do think that we're going back in time a little bit. Like, so when you solve these problems in your life, you're actually going through these tragedies so that you can help other people go through them faster. And maybe that's a way to rid the world of it in some way.
It seems as if the only way that I know for sure to overcome something consciously
Right.
is to readdress it. You
Right.
know, I don't have to have the person in front of me, but I do have to bring up um, the feelings,
Yep.
not necessarily the pictures and everything, but the feelings, so that I can then go understand. I suppose I need to be in a safe place, but to be able to let it go. And Monty, just as a tiny little
Yeah.
side, I just walked past my partner and she said, "Oh, he's asking you really interesting questions."
Nice.
And I just had this beautiful realization that I'm enjoying this. I'm loving this. I'm loving that you're interested in me. I I wish this for everybody. I wish that somebody would take an interest in somebody. Maybe not the mum, maybe not the dad necessarily, because I find this is, I find this is so valuable for me. And I suppose it might look good on the camera because I'm quite expressive and I love to, express. It's just what I love to do. Not everybody loves to do it, but you don't have to necessarily have an interesting life to have someone curious about you, you know. And I just felt, I wish that for everyone. I I hope that everybody gets an opportunity to really feel seen and heard and engaged with, because I just know that there are times when I go to places or I see brothers and sisters, older brothers and sisters, or family members, and their energy is not happy.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's one of the saddest things that some people think they don't have an interesting life. Everybody is an interesting person.
Yeah,
Everybody has something unique about them that they need to share with the world that will make the world better. And like that's one of the things like that I want. I see it in people, and I know you do too, Steph. But you wouldn't be doing what you're doing unless you saw the spark and the divine beauty in people. Like we connect on so many levels, and I get goosebumps thinking about it. But that's what
yeah,
we're here to do. Like some of us
yep.
can see it in other people, and that's our job to blow on that ember and grow that spark inside them, so that they can go and do it for somebody else. Like I thank you for saying all that. I want people to feel this way. I want everybody listening to this to see our relationship and take away some of these stories. Like I've never heard about some of these techniques before. And I think that the gifts we're giving to people are something that they can use in their life to make their life better. And what's better
Mm,
than a conversation where two people genuinely care about making the other person see things differently and getting to really talk to someone in a deep conversation that's not, how's the weather? Hey, are you okay? Like, let's figure out what's going on in here and make the world a little better. So thanks for noticing that because I try hard. I want
mm.
people to do that.
Yeah, look, curiosity
Yeah.
is such a valuable tool to employ on a regular basis. If
Yep.
I'm curious about you, I'm not judging you. I'm not pre planning what fixed ideas I have of how you should be or how anything should be. I'm very likely to have some questions that helps to kind of open up things, and we get to explore and go on little journeys together. And it's such a, like I wasn't born like this. I wasn't born with these. I've had to develop a lot of these, these things that I'm now
Sure.
sprouting. But I'm so grateful that I've kept going, and because there's been hard times, of
Sure.
course,
Yeah.
and they're the biggest growth curves, the hard times. And I feel so fortunate that I'm in a deeply loving relationship with my, whether she's my soulmate or my twin flame, it doesn't really matter. We absolutely adore each other, and we've been together for 7 years. And I feel so grateful that I have such a deep bond with another human.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, together we kind of we hone the love, the sharing, the communicating, the living together, so that I can then take it out into the world. So I feel really grateful and really in a wonderful space.
There's something to be said about magnifying the human experience. And when we find ourselves in relationships, like that's what we do. We magnify the human experience. It's a beautiful thing, and it can be powerful in a good way, it can be powerful in a negative way, sometimes. But it's our decision to go down that road. And I love what you said about there being tough times. And I think that there are probably a lot of people right now going through some tough times. Would you mind maybe sharing some, like, what are the rocks that you grab onto when you go through those tough times?
Well, I will say that as a boy, as a young man, I was very reactive. I was very impetuous, not much earthiness about me, lots of fire and air. So not so much hard times, but in a difficult moment, for instance, what I definitely have learnt to do is to shut up and just take a moment. If I'm in talking to someone or there's something going on, just to come back here, just ground, so that my energy moves away from this crazy monkey jumping from one branch to another kind of mind, and just relax, just come back to my center. Actually, the other day, I had somebody bipping at me. Now, I'm not quite sure why they bipped at me, but I was pretty sure they were bipping at me in the car. So I rolled the window down and I just did this. Now, my intention was to communicate. It was funny because I was going to be Charlie Chaplin later on. So it was perfect. And, I was just saying, calm. And then when the traffic moved, that car moved very erratically. So I don't think it worked. But
What
at
is the
least
intention?
my intention was, it's okay. It's, like, just relax. Without telling them, because a lot of people don't want to be told what to do.
Right.
So gesturing was my way of being able to, I was attempting to diffuse the situation.
Well, this brings up an interesting point, because anybody who finds themselves as a public speaker or on stage or in groups of people understands that there are a lot of ways you can communicate, and not with your words, with your eyes, with your facial expressions. And you can learn to pick up social cues on people. When you are the center of attention, you really learn the way in which people are communicating to you, whether they're like this or whether they're like this, or whether they're, what you learn so much just by looking at people, right? If you're willing to put yourself out in front of everyone and have everyone put their eyes on you, you can learn a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember many, many years ago when I first came to Melbourne, I had a show called Get Off the Bloody Road. And there was one night where there was a small audience, and there was this lovely woman laughing at all the things that I was doing. She was having a great time. And there was another guy a few people away from her sitting like this. Now, who do you think I focused on? It's a no-brainer. So of course I focused on her, and I, was able to maintain that kind of relationship with
Right.
myself, to her, to the audience. So it's important. It's important not to focus on the negative or what I think is negative, but
Right.
to focus where I where I'm going to find benefit.
It's so fascinating to me because I was just talking to my beautiful daughter about this whole situation where, and that is a manifestation of what you put out, you get back. Like if you focus on someone who is feeding you this loving response, you're gonna grow that together. But if you focus on the thing that's negative, all that good energy just hits that wall and dies right there. It's amazing to think about and see it happen in real life like that. Because you could live or, I mean, figuratively speaking, you could live or die on the show that way. Like you gain the crowd by focusing on that, or you lose them by focusing on that person. And both those energies are there at all times, right? Like you can choose whatever one you want.
Yeah, yeah. Very early in my career, I was doing a street show. I used to get on. I put a child on my shoulders, then I'd get on a pogo stick, and I'd dive through a fire hoop, or I'd get up on stilts and dive into a cup of water. But there was one time when there were these older teenagers, and they were heckling me and giving me a hard time. And I went up to them, kind of. I didn't yell or anything. I just walked up to them and I said, "If you keep doing that, I'm gonna dot 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 dot." Um, and then I went back to my spot and started performing again. And they were just all claps and all. So I wasn't the nicest guy at that moment when I addressed them, but uh, it's like I made a real clear boundary. Coming
Yeah,
back to boundaries again, I just made it really clear that, like, I could explain to them in really nice words, and that may not have worked.
probably not.
And I just trusted my intuition and my spontaneity in that moment, and I wasn't thinking. And I mean, one of the things that I find a benefit at times and a curse at other times, that I don't think, I just intuit, I just act spontaneously, which also is where I suppose, not responding, not reacting, but responding by coming back to my center, noticing my breath, noticing my body, and then respond to, the world in whatever way. Then, because then I'm much more grounded, and I
Right.
can act so much more lovingly and considered. So, yeah, it's been an interesting. If life is just an experience for us to share our gifts, and it's a journey to just be lived, just to, you know it's enough for me. I still got more years to go
Right.
um, on this planet, but I have been having a good time, and I expect it to just continue, because that's my intention.
Yeah. And I think it's so well said. And I think it's timely because so many people are searching right now for this idea of authenticity or happiness or self-fulfillment or self-respect, and in today's world, when you go and you do things that you don't want to do, you end up living a life that you don't want to live. And it's so much more rewarding to follow your heart. It's so much more rewarding at a younger age to follow that thing you're passionate about, to listen to that voice in your heart and follow it. Have the courage to follow it. You'll end up in a spot that you're supposed to be at. And I love that message, and I hope more people resonate with it. It seems so true in life, right?
Yep, yep. Um, you know, talking, asking for help,
Hard one.
talking with friends. Oh, don't have any friends. Um, I, I actually have a friend in London, an ex-girlfriend, who came and visited me and my partner recently, and she desperately wants to be in a relationship. And I said to her, just join groups. Just join a group. Just have fun. Like, I know there are many people who are seeking a partner, seeking someone to live their life with. It's such a normal, beautiful human desire. Um, and she has been getting out and being in groups, and she seems happier. And that idea of finding her man doesn't seem quite as pressing, because it's like she's being nourished by groups of people. She's getting engagement that she has been missing. So what we want isn't always the next step. I think there are steps we can't quite see in between that need to happen so that we can move toward what it is that we want.
Yeah, that's really well said. I love language, and when it's interesting that you use the word engagement, because that's the thing we do when we finally find someone we love. We get engaged to them. But if you want to begin to find people, you should get engaged with everybody, right? How are you going to find the people out there? How are your people going to find you unless you're engaging?
Absolutely. I mean, the irony is that I met my partner on Facebook.
Perfect.
I got an injury with my leg doing yoga in a yoga class. I asked Facebook some questions like, "Oh, does anybody know of anyone who can, help me? What to do? This is what's going on." And she wasn't one of my Facebook friends. She was a friend of a friend, because of all the algorithms have changed a
Right.
lot. So
Right.
in 2016, it was simpler, I think, the algorithms. So she got my message and responded, and I saw her I saw her picture, and I thought, wow, she's cute. And and one of my dreams was always to have a friendship with a woman before entering into a relationship. And we are best friends now, and we were best friends then. And friendship is just such a valuable quality. It's just wonderful having a friend and friends that um, you can trust.
Yeah, it's especially in today's world where things seem to be so superficial sometimes. Like, it seems that when you have good friends, it's easy to talk online and connect that way, but it's different than sitting down with someone and going to grabbing some coffee or grabbing a drink and beginning to thoroughly understand that that person is a person. They're not just a profile, that they are someone that has loves and desires and problems and heartaches and all these things that make us human. And it's those things we see in them that
Yeah.
that they're echoes of us in a weird sort of way, it seems like. And that's how you know.
I don't know how it's true, but in my bones, in my heart, I know that although we've individuated, we are having a separate experience. At the same time, paradoxically, we're all connected. And it's not just some fuzzy, thin throwaway line. Like I feel it because I want everyone who's in my vicinity when I'm working, performing, teaching, whatever I'm doing, to join in if they want, because it's always their choice.
Right.
I never force anyone to anything. And be part of this moment that's never going to be again. Just like this.
Yeah.
Just this interview, you know, like this sharing that we're doing. It's just it's a magical moments.
It's true. I think it's a beautiful spot right there, Stev. I love it. And I think that that's a great message for people to take with them today and to embrace and try to live out, is that the life we live is a beautiful one if you're willing to embrace the tragedies and you're willing to take the hits and you're willing to understand that we're here for a reason, and that the people you see in life and the people that you see in your world are just they're images of you going through similar things. And if you can see it that way, it'll really help you go through life. And I guess before I let you go though, Stev, what do you got coming up? What are you excited about and what are you looking forward to?
Tomorrow,
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'm going to do a science party for a 6-year-old. I spoke to his French mum yesterday. Looking forward to that. It's a quiet weekend, but I've had a fair bit of work just recently, and I'm doing a thing called Professor Maths, where I go to a primary school on Monday, and teach children maths through games, through board games, large board games, and they just play. They don't necessarily know that they're doing maths, but they're doing maths because they're playing. I love playing didgeridoo, which is these dudes.
I saw them all back there.
I made some of them, the lighter coloured ones. They're the ones that I've made, and the darker ones I've got from up north of Australia. So I love playing music, playing the didge, and it's such a great way to really center myself and be in the moment and just play in a sort of very reverent way. And life is kind of quite simple for me. I'm looking forward to each moment. I love gardening.
Nice.
All the echinaceas are starting to come out. Winter's almost over here, and I really want to say a big thanks to you, George. The reason why I called you Monty earlier is because we've got a cat called Monty.
Yeah.
And he's a brother, and the other guy, he's a crazy cat. But I really appreciate having this time with you, sharing the way I see the world, this little snippet, and I wish you all the best with future talks and just lots and lots and lots of love. Beautiful man.
Well, it takes one to know one. And I'll have you back. We'll do some panels where we talk to more people and we share more conversations, because I think that the more people we can get together, the brighter the light we can shine on beautiful ideas. And maybe next time I have you back, I'll have you play the didgeridoo. And I don't know. I love talking to you. It was really fun. And I thank you for your time. I love what you're doing, and I love the inspiration. And thank you for the wisdom that we got to share. So we'll hang on for 1 second. I'm going to talk to you afterwards, but I'm going to hang on with the people. And so, you know what? I think I forgot to ask you, where is it that people can find you?
I have a website, Stev Fioretti. fioretti.com.au. I'm pretty sure that's the address. You'll find me there, and yeah, that's the best place to find me.
Nice.
stevfioretti.com.au.
I'll have it in the show notes, but I always like to have it said out loud on the show too, so people that are listening can also be like, "Oh, let me go ahead and do that." Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Ken, everybody that was in the comments, thank you so much for hanging out and spending time with us today. Check out Stev, see what he's doing. Check out his classes. He's a fascinating person who's got a lot of phenomenal ideas. He's a great teacher, and look him up, check him out, and that's what we got for today, ladies and gentlemen. Aloha.
Aloha.